we wanted to start with some music because I know we haven't spoke on Dave East's mixtape, or is it a album? Album mixtape. It's all the same thing. Let's just say project.
Have you heard?
I heard some of it. I like it. What did you think about it?
I liked it too.
Dave East is an interesting character. He's one of those things. He's one of those artists that is consistent with what he does. I can't really say I've ever heard a whack Dave East verse, but it's like
Mm,
the songs are like a straight line to me.
well, you want to know what he sounded like on this album? In my opinion, he sounded very comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's because he's not with Mass Appeal anymore, and so he's not tied to anything, and maybe he's not feeling any like per se pressure. But there's something about this pocket that he's in when I listen to this album, and I like this pocket for him.
He's
Like,
always been dope picking production as well too. What do you think? And I guess we got to talk next levels here because he is a part of that freshman class. What was that? 2016, the one with 21 Savage, Anderson Paak, Designer, Kodak Black. Who else was in there? Lil Yachty.
mhm.
So, what keeps him from being mentioned with many of his contemporaries in hip hop, especially with his ability to rhyme, in your opinion?
Hmm. I think you want to know. It really just came across my mind today, like really for the first time. What do you think of his voice?
Somebody in the chat just said Dave East has a horrible voice. Now, I'm not going that far.
Going that
It's
far?
funny that you said that. I don't know if you read the comment that,
No,
yeah.
I'm actually on my iPad,
Okay.
actually doing the
Yeah.
show where I usually pull up the thread from the chat, and my phone's right here. I don't have anything on the phone, so
What are we rating his voice from a 1 to 10? Because, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't say horrible, but maybe 6, 7 ish.
I was thinking six-ish.
Yeah, Leroy Green says the voice.
Right, because when I listen to him spit and some of the stuff he says, and we're gonna get to this when we bring up another artist and album in a minute. Like he does it, and he does it well. And I don't know if it's just because of like how he puts it together, or maybe sometimes for some people can question maybe the work that he puts in. But it's like lyrically, he's not his top tier as you would like him to be, if that makes sense. It's like
It
because
makes
he gives
sense.
you enough to make you feel like he could be.
Let me pull a Harlem name out, and I'm going to go ASAP Ferg, right? Because for me, ASAP Rocky is not even in the question, right? But ASAP Ferg, he might not be the most lyrical like that, but he's entertaining. His
He's,
songs are entertaining, and he has a pretty dope rap voice.
he does. He has a dope rap voice, and he's exciting.
Yeah, he is. And I hear people saying that Dave East is monotone. And I hate to have to put I don't hate to put those criticisms on an MC because those are things that your pen work, are basically being punished for. And it shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Because I feel like what is the most important part of an MC, Coop, in your opinion?
you want to know what? Can I tell you some honest to God truth? From the time when I was an artist, I really did think that it was about the rhyme. But I've gotten older and I've just gotten smarter, and it's not just about the rhyme. It's like, no, you got to have the voice, the energy, the flow. Like you got to have the package. And it's like when you really look at it, it's like when we parse hairs about like who does this better, this, that, and the other. Well, you find us talking about the same people is because well they operate on that same high level very very well. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like there's a reason that when we talk lyrics, we consistently bring up Black Thought and Nas and Rakim and Cool G Rap and KRS One and Big
But
Pun.
all of those people you mentioned, they have dope voices. So it's like their pen
But this
game.
But
Yeah.
what I was about to say is if you go down the dope voice list, it's like, well, you'll find a lot of your greatest lyricists there. You go down your
Yeah.
dope voice list, you'll find a lot of your greatest storytellers there. You know what I mean? It's like, because part of what makes you want to listen to it and part of what makes it entertaining is what?
The voice. I mean,
So
let's look at Old Dirty. Let's look at Old Dirty, right? That was all charisma. Even some MCs that, I mean,
true.
Method Man was my favorite MC growing up, and Meth had his moments where his bar game was crazy and his word placement was crazy, but he wasn't the quote unquote most lyrical. It was his delivery, his ability, his charisma on the mic, his voice. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing with Snoop. You know what I mean? Like we could break it down and say, Snoop's not the most lyrical guy, but the most lyrical guy is not gonna make Doggy Style.
It matters.
It matters a whole lot. I think a lot more than we like to give it credit to. I think that
That's
this being hip hop or being MCing, we want to give credence to the lyricism more. But if you think about it, with the park jams and what the MC's individual role was, even in that arena, it was about the voice and delivery and your ability to rock the party.
well, it's this. Well, it's kind of like the same rules apply. It's like so. Let's talk about some of your great lyricists and what their voices sound like. KRS-One,
10,
Chuck D,
10,
Ice Cube,
10.
Scarface.
Yeah, 10. I mean, honestly, even with Scarface, a lot of people say he's not, and I think it was Dumb It Down. Shout out to Dumb It Down. He's probably not in the room yet. He was acting like Scarface wasn't, a lyricist because he's not lyrical miracle. But a big part of Scarface's draw and his storytelling ability comes from the voice. It does.
It just does.
I mean, without a voice like that, you can't make I Seen a Man Die. You can't. Marquez Davis with the super chat says, The Voice 10. Happy Thanksgiving, fellas. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Marquez. We appreciate the support, and I appreciate everybody saying Happy Thanksgiving, and Happy Thanksgiving to y'all as well. Let me ask you a question, and I'm gonna get into this diatribe in a minute too, and I know people love it when I go here. From a voice standpoint,
What?
Eminem. From a voice standpoint, let's be real.
Is that the question?
Do we have to separate Eminem from eras or whatever? Say like, prime Eminem and washed Eminem, or you want to pull them together?
Is that
They're two different voices.
is that the question? I would rate his voice somewhere in the category where I would put Dave voice, probably about a 6.
I think his voice is one of his drawbacks.
I mean, yeah.
I think Amityville is the Eminem voice that I could tolerate the most. I don't want to say tolerate, that I like the most. I could tolerate role model voice, but, I can kind of look past some of the high pitch. But Amityville, if he rapped like that a lot, then I would give his voice higher marks. But as far as like this stuff that we're hearing currently, yeah, that voice is a 6 or a 5, man. It's really bad.
I like the guy that's on Any Man and forgot about Dre as far as voice.
You do? I would.
Yeah.
I go more towards the Renegade voice.
I think that's kind of forgot about Dre territory with the voice, don't you think?
What do you say to somebody you hate? Nah, I think that's a little higher. I think Any Man, and that's a little higher.
Cool. I'm cool when he does it at that pitch because I think that's where he's most comfortable. That's what I mean. Like, I like hearing artists when they're comfortable. And I think that's where he's most comfortable is when he's in that Any Man and forgot about Dre pocket. I think it's when he makes his best stuff as an MC.
You know what? I'll give you this. I think it really made him stand out. I think if he would have came in the game with the more toned down voice, he might not have stood out as much. Because, yeah, that high pitch, because again, I keep going back to this record, and I think I might have referenced it on that top 5 that I recently did, which you guys are going to get a kick out of. He really stood out to me on Sway and Tex, the anthem. And a lot of that is because of his voice and his delivery in relation to his counterparts. I think he was rapping in between Pharoah Monch and Exhibit. Monstrous voices. And then he comes in there like, this is my house. I might as well wipe myself out, my eyes out with white out. You can't see me like Mace's eyebrows. That verse. And I was like, yo, he's dope. And he actually jumped on this record with a whole bunch of dope MCs, some of the greatest of all time, and stood out. And I think his voice had a lot to do with that. If he would have been rapping like Renegade, Lose Yourself, Eminem, out the gate, I don't know if he would have stood out in that way. So I'll give you that.
No, but that's where he's comfortable. That's why I'm saying, look at how dope that verse was because it made you a fan of it too.
Yeah.
Like where he's comfortable, and so it's like even if that's not necessarily, you got to let people do what they're comfortable doing. I mean, you have many times referenced that Dr. Dre Aftermath album. Well, Mike, he wasn't comfortable.
He was still finding what the new thing was gonna be. I mean,
The
in
thing was the
between,
whole thing just redone, and amped up.
I think that Aftermath album is very. What's the record with him and Ice Cube? Um,
Not Natural Born
Natural
Killers.
Born Killers sonically. But I think he was going there anyway. Even if you look at California Love, Mad Max type of theme or whatever,
He
and
wasn't as good on that album. Like talking about Natural Born Killers and California Love, like that stuff.
no, I'm just talking about the tone, just getting away from G-Funk. You know what I mean? And I think that yeah, he doubled down on that on the Aftermath album, which is his album, but I don't think that he had perfected that sound. But you know what? I don't even know if it's just that sound because I haven't listened to the Aftermath album in a long time. And I bet if I go back and listen to it from a production standpoint, I might say, you know what? This album ain't as bad as I remember. I think the problem with that album is you don't have a Snoop, you don't have an Eminem, and you don't have a Hitman. You don't have somebody who is going to give you the direction from a rapper standpoint. And, both of his seminal efforts have that. Yeah, DLC too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the biggest problem with that Aftermath album. What was that, 97?
97.
97 is such a weird year in hip-hop. 97 is kind of the year that a lot of people either took it to the next level or fell off a little bit.
It was just weird. There's a little bit of everything. 97 is a mixed bag year because really the problem with 97 is, 96 and 98.
What's the problem with 97?
96 and 98.
Well, there's a lot of problems with 97. I mean, obviously Pop passed it.
97 has a lot of dope stuff. It's just not as like all-time classic as the 96, 98 stuff. Like when you look at it, the 97 stuff falls further back than the 96, 98 stuff.
Someone always described Pac and Big's passing or murders like the Twin Towers falling, right? And Pac passing or getting murdered was the first tower going down. And then, for people who were old enough to remember, when the second tower fell, it's like, oh, this shit is real. It's not an accident. You know what I'm saying? And I think Big dying was the second tower falling, and I think it took a whole lot of air out of the game. You know what I mean? Not that Pac didn't, because he did. But when Big passed right after that, I think it put hip-hop in a dark place for, the next couple of months. And I think 97 kind of suffers from that. There's a lot of trickle-down effects from both of those guys, being removed from the game in the fashion that they did.
Well, it happened within 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's a domino effect of like misery and grief kind of like, transitioning. And it's like, quite frankly, the environment and the climate probably had a lot of artists thinking like, should I even be making rap music?
That's why we got to the Shiny Suit era, to be perfectly honest. And obviously it was catapulted by, Puff and Mace. But it was like, yo, we got to do something uplifting and happy. And it got too happy,
Yeah.
And I think that's where it came from.
But isn't 97 the Carnival?
Incredible record, yes. But I think that the Carnival would have been remembered a lot better in history if we didn't get the Miseducation the following year. And the Carnival, to me, is brilliant. Probably one of the more underrated. I hate to say underrated because it sold so many records, but it's understated in history, I'll say.
Yeah, nobody talks about it.
Yeah. NDU Jams with the super chat says, like Guru said, it's mostly the voice that gets you up and mostly the voice that makes you buck. This is true. We got JY in the building with the Graduation album cover. I seen your comment too. We're going to address all that. He said, "What up, guys? Peace and blessings to both of y'all from Australia. Shout out to Australia out there. Coop, your Purple Tape Friday show was super dope. Interacting with us and playing real rap ish. Yes. When
Glad
are
to
you
be a
doing the
part.
next one?
I actually started like right now the playlist, so we're gonna be pulling up soon and doing something else soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
JY also says DMX voice personally for me, then big. DMX voice was special.
I feel that way too. Well, I mean, you want to know it? It's the voice with the amount of energy and intensity and actual pure unbridled pain he was feeling inside. It's like it's when you have a great MC, it's not just one thing. There may be one thing to you that sticks out the most, but it's usually a combination of a lot of things. Just like eating your favorite dish. You know, it's not one thing that makes a dish your favorite dish. It's usually a few different seasonings, spices, the way that it's put together that makes it your favorite. Like your favorite MCs are that way. It's not just his voice, it's the energy,
Well,
the
let's
intent,
bring that back to Dave East
the
because
pain, the story.
I think that I mean, voice is one thing, but maybe the passion's the other.
What I would submit to you, that's what I was trying to say in kind of a roundabout way when I was saying, well, how much is he working on being that top level? Because
Yeah.
that's that passion and that intensity and that burning desire. And those are intangibles that really can't be measured. That's what I mean. It's just like no, like for whatever like you think about like a Tupac or a Big or a Nas or a Jay, like be some rapping ass niggas. Like they love to rap, Mike.
But once again, though, even when we talk about Jay, I think that's why I say conversational Jay ranks so high for me
Love to
because
rap.
you feel him. You know what I'm saying? And that's the Jay that gives you the feeling. Conversational Jay.
Like
We were riding to my parents' house yesterday and we were listening to some Teddy Pendergrass and it was Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Miss You and TKO. And I was listening to Teddy, and I'm like, you just feel this dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you hear it in his voice. Like, even when he's not singing hard, you feel the words because of the intensity there. And I was thinking, like, people don't sing like that. At least male singers don't sing like that anymore. And I think that's some of the things that we're hearing in rap. It's like that intensity matters. And it's not just, and I'm not trying to diss, I'm just being real honest here. Meek Mill does a lot of yelling, and it's not just that. Like, I don't, I don't feel Meek's raps. I just don't. And again, I'm not saying that to be disparaging. I just don't, and it's different.
you
You
can't
know, even Jim Jones, somebody who wasn't even that lyrically skilled, when he came out and he was making certain records, I felt Jim Jones.
hold on.
Like,
Oh, it's funny that you're bringing up Jim Jones because you know Jim Jones was on the 38 joint, right?
yeah,
First of all, Jim Jones can rap,
he can,
and
and he's
Jim Jones.
developed that over the year. He did
But
years.
hold on, let me say something. Like
Uh-huh.
the reason Jim Jones is dope because you can feel that
Exactly.
he feels what he's putting down. You can tell that he loves hip hop and loves to rap on whatever level. Like it's not on a Rakim level in terms of how he views it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But on his level, he really, really loves it
Mm-hmm.
and expresses it, and you feel him. And that's what I like to listen to. That's why it doesn't always have to be super lyrical for me. It's like, no. I like the dudes that feel themselves and the ladies that feel themselves on their level in their world, no matter what it is.
It's confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. And again, I hate to be critical of MCs that seem to be doing everything right from the pen game level, but you know, when you listen to the people and hear some of the things that the people are saying and their response, obviously something is missing. You know what I'm saying? And I think we've kind of found the things that may be missing with this particular MC.
I mean, the voice thing literally just crossed my mind today because it's like I was really enjoying this album and I was like, why do I not love this album? I had to ask myself that. I was like, the songs are good, the production's good. I was like, bro,
Production's always good.
the production is for the most time always good with him.
Mm-hmm.
And this even felt more in his element in his pocket. Like it might be his best project that I've heard just off one listen.
Wow. And so we're probably not even. Do you think it's going to be a top 10 for this year?
No, that's the problem.
You
That's
know
what I
who's
mean. saying why don't I love it? Do you think it's top 10?
I don't think so. I was
Right.
gonna say, man, another MC who I think is super dope as a lyricist whose voice I don't love is JID.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if JID had a commanding voice on the mic. I think we might even rank his already stellar effort even better than we did. Those things matter. And I think that, I don't know what it is in this era. Maybe it's kind of going back to what I just said about Teddy Pendergrass, but you don't get a lot of strong voices coming in the
Right.
game anymore. I mean, because DMX's whole taking it back to the streets movement from the shiny suit era doesn't happen if he doesn't have a strong, commanding, passionate voice.
This is true.
It just doesn't.
I think one of the things that maybe we've been doing as hip hop media and auditors of the culture is I think we haven't been maybe putting enough emphasis on voice in relationship to lyrics,
Yeah.
storytelling, album making. Like I think when we think about voice, we try to put it a level or a step below those things. And I think what we really need to start doing is acknowledging the fact is that, well, the voice matters damn near as much as the lyrics, the catalog, that favorite album that you listen to over and over, because you want to know why you can listen to it over and over again.
Yeah.
These guys have dope voices. You want to know part of why Outkast is the greatest duo ever? Like, Mike, they have dope-ass rap voices.
Yep. And contrasting rap voices, too.
It's contrasting, but it's also, like, Southern, but understandable.
Oh, yeah,
like
very clear. That was one of the things my mom
very-
said when Miss Jackson or So Fresh So Clean was playing on the radio back in the day. She's like,
Yes.
they're very clear. I can really understand them.
They're distinctively Southern, but it's distinctive that you can hear exactly what they're saying.
I think that's something that Jay-Z has going for him as well. Like, he's incredibly clear.
Yes, I do believe that as well.
Andrew Green with the super chat, $20 super chat, great looking, says, I'm late, but I want to notice, I said, I'm late, but what I noticed is how impeccable sequencing is on Nas and Hit-Boy's albums. Was listening to Magic today, and after Woo for the Children, the first voice you hear is Raekwon on Wave God Scratch. Small details, definitely. And that's intentional. It's not by accident.
Yes, it's
Shout out to Hit-Boy. Incredible job sequencing and producing. And again, even in that clip that Hit-Boy posted on his Instagram, it's always, man, like, you and I do this show sometimes 2-3 hours. And there's a lot of things that we say. And sometimes clips get taken and it's like, well, I didn't mean for that to sound like an insult. You know what I mean? But it happens like that sometimes. And one of the things that I said on that Hit-Boy clip was the fact that I didn't feel like Nas had been produced since Illmatic. And when you just take the clip, it kind of sounds like a slight or, disrespect, whatever. But things like that is what I mean from a sequencing standpoint. And those are things that, Nas just didn't have to worry about in this collaboration because Hit-Boy had it. It was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the song structure, the rhymes, the hooks, on all of those things. You handle the production and sequencing.
Fascinating. Is that executive production? A little A&R work, maybe even possibly?
From who?
Hit-Boy.
Oh, definitely. I think even from Nas' standpoint, though, sometimes, being able to delegate in that way, and I'm sure he gave his input, that's a level of executive production, too.
No. I've heard some of the inside input and some of the things that he requested from Hit-Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seek Bix with the super chat says, Kendrick's voice is mad annoying. He raps over mostly subpar beats, which makes it even worse. He also tries to be street while trying to be a role model for the youth. Super whack. Huh. Very harsh. I want to piggyback on that, but go ahead.
Well, I think of all the all-time great rappers, he does arguably have the worst voice. Like, of all the all-time great rappers, because this is what I mean when we start considering about who are the greatest rappers of all time. Well, let's do a quick rundown. Well, we have Rakim, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane, Slick Rick, KRS-One, Chuck D, Scarface, Ice Cube, Nas, Biggie, Tupac. Like,
All great voices.
that's 10 of your 20 or 11 or 12 of your 20 right there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And see, the thing is, man, and I know we've said before on this show.
Jada Kiss.
Yeah. I know we've said on the show before, Jay-Z doesn't have a great rap voice, but I think that's only in comparison to his contemporaries.
He's the only one up there who doesn't have like the voice.
But if you compare him to most rappers, he does have a good rap voice.
If you slide him even go down next to Kendrick, it's like, oh no, great rap voice, but then it's like Ice Cube, Chuck D, Nas, Rakim, Big.
No, Jay-Z's rap voice is way better than Kendrick's. Because again, we got a "You Don't Know" from Jay.
He's in such a funny pocket where all the other MCs that are as dope as him, their voices are so much doper than him, but his voice is so much better than everybody else.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, this is what I'll say about Kendrick and his voice. Everybody that I talk to that doesn't really feel Kendrick like that, especially after To Pimp a Butterfly, because I was in a space like, man, am I overrating Kendrick? Because I was like floored by the efforts. And people like, yeah, I ain't really feeling them like that. I'm playing To Pimp a Butterfly for people when it came out, and they acting like it's normal stuff or just, okay stuff. And y'all hear people saying that Kendrick's overrated. All of that, when you ask somebody what they don't like about Kendrick, the first thing they're going to say is his voice. Because there's really nothing else you can criticize.
I mean, outside of this album that he just dropped up until this point, there wasn't anything to criticize other than the voice. So
I mean, even this current album, I think we gotta rate this album as an isolated project. Now, the biggest thing is the fact that it was a 5-year break.
They're all isolated projects. They all should get rated isolated projects. I'm not giving it a rating based on like what he's done before.
Right. No, I ain't talking about it. I'm talking about him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't fall too far after creating something like this because he has Section 80, he has Good Kid, Mad City, he has To Pimp a Butterfly, and he has Damn. So
no. Like when I'm saying like slide, it's like, oh, you might have been at like 10, 11, you might be at like 14, 15. I didn't say he was at like 52. It's like, oh man, he made this awful project 52. It's like, no, you might maybe 10, 11, you might be at 14, 15, 16. It's like, that's how,
It's the slide.
It's a slide. It's not like you just fell off the map or something. It's like you're still right there. That's how it happens. I mean, don't the NBA do player rankings every year?
They do.
Haven't you been watching like LeBron and like Durant slide a little bit? You want to know why they're getting older? Luka and Jokic. You know what I mean?
No, it's real. Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't help to have a 5-year break. The Raisin Heads with the super chat says, voice means a lot.
Taking a 5-year break from balling.
Well, that's never going to happen. What other profession can you take a 5-year break in?
No. In entertainment, you can take as many breaks as you want. You just need to be mindful about your audience. That's all.
Well, okay, let's just be real. Let's be real here. Who in hip-hop, and I know we've covered this before, has actually taken a 5-year break and came back and popping like ever? And before people say Dr. Dre's a producer. He didn't take a 5-year break from production. That he did not do.
No, people would say Nas with Nasir. The difference between Life is Good and Nasir is about 4.5 years.
Well, see, this is the thing. He had already been through the peak of his career, and if Nas would have never made an album again from Life is Good on, he would have already been solidified. So I don't think that counts. You know what I mean? We're talking about if he would have taken a break in 2000 and came back in 2005 or something.
I don't either. I'm just being objective.
Yeah. No. I feel you. I'm answering the people who might,
I feel like Scarface may have taken a 5-year break too, but the same thing like with Nas already. Yeah. I think between like Emeritus and when he dropped Deeply Rooted was like a 4 or 5 year break.
Yeah, again, solidified.
Right.
He didn't even need to make Emeritus.
4 or 5 classic albums. Right.
Yeah. Right. All right, Made Man. Raising Head with the super chat says, voice means a lot. Just listen to a ghost now. Peter Parks with the super chat says, What's good, guys? Just wanted to say, love the show. As always, you guys have high hip hop IQs for sure. Appreciate the love. Yes, not Q's. Coop's hip hop IQ is high. I was about to say basketball IQ. I've never really heard hip hop IQ. It's just a music IQ altogether. Inspector says Kendrick has the most annoying rap voice. See, people believe. All right.
Hold on.
So
First
Pimple
of all,
Butterflies.
I don't look at it like an IQ thing because the IQ is something that you can measure, and you just really can't measure music in that meter. So I would say it's just like we're honest with our ears. I think both of us have always been very, very honest with our ears in terms of what we hear.
I'm sure I'm off all the time, but again, it's just like you said, being honest with the ears.
Everybody's off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, this is like Vegas, Mike. You know what I mean? We're trying to take the house. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna win. We're gonna hit some.
Okay, what's that record on To Pimp a Butterfly that I always skip? You know what song I'm talking about? Complicated. You know what I'm talking about?
Not Complexion.
Mm-mm.
Oh, Love is Complicated, like the question, just like question mark, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's just question
His
mark.
his voice on there. Yeah, his voice on there, I can't listen to. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. So, I mean, it's hard to listen to. I'll put it that way. I mean, the bars.
You're talking about For Sale.
No, not For Sale. Hold on. What's after For Sale?
Mama.
No. What's up?
Institutionalized?
Nah, hold on.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. You? Loving You Is Complicated? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, You. Yep, You. Yeah. I can't listen to the record, and it's because of his voice. Michael Williams with the Super Chat says, what's your favorite era of Nas? 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s? I have to say current Nas. His perspective and overall artistry is perfect to me now. It's different when you grow with your favorite artists. It's hard to say, man. I mean, I think from a listening standpoint and just being such a fan of 90s Nas, it's hard to not say that, but I understand if people are saying current because the perspective is just so clear. It's not all over the place. You're not going to get a You Owe Me in this era. No disrespect, but you know what I mean.
You know, somebody can be, it's very rare that somebody is a genius early and a genius late.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when somebody is a genius late, that's usually the things that they are remembered for.
I give you that. I've always given people the highest marks for what they do later in their careers. That's the stuff that makes you a legend. Because, you know, I don't want to say everybody's great in their prime, but a lot of people who aren't overall all-time great are even great in their prime.
Right.
But let's see how you operate when you're, you know, so-called past that prime. Or not, as they say, or 21 Savage says, the most relevant person on the block. Like, how are you going to perform 21 Savage when people are saying you aren't relevant anymore? Are you even going to give it a shot? I mean, that's why when people talk about Jordan on the Wizards, I thought Jordan on the Wizards was incredibly impressive. He changed position. He was playing small forward now. He was playing bigger. He was 40-something years old, dropping 40 in games, averaging like, what was it, like 24 and 6 or something? Like, to do that at 39, 40 years old, after taking a break from, 98 to, 02? That's impressive.
It's amazing, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, when you think about it, that is extremely impressive. Playing for an organization that no one expects to win anything. You know, you're playing with some guys that, let's just be real, aren't championship caliber players. And I thought it was impressive. And I think that, again, when you see how somebody's able to operate at that age, that is a true testament to their greatness. Same thing with LeBron.
So this is what I mean about. So let's go back to Michelangelo, and I just wanted to do my research right quick to make sure I had it right.
Okay.
Like when somebody's a genius, Mike, it usually flashes like in in a span that you can see, no matter what the genre is. So Michelangelo made David when he was 26 years old. He did the Sistine Chapel at 33. That's what he's remembered for. Like he did a bunch of other shit after that. What he's remembered for.
Yeah.
It's like a ball player. It's like you remember Michael Jordan the year he scored 37 points, and you remember the guy that went on that run in his 30s. It's a time period of the guy that you remember. You know what I'm saying? And there are market seasons and times of that. Like this dude is having seasons like this, like literally 25, 26, 27 years apart. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I'm trying to think of like the first time Einstein became famous for something, and then like the theory of relativity, like the age gap. Like it's one of those type of things going on.
I mean, even Quincy producing Thriller at the age of 50, you know? Will we ever see a producer?
But what did Quincy have that was considered to be illmatic in its genre 30 years before?
Well, I mean, I'll have to go back and look at the work that he did with Frank Sinatra and, Ray Charles. You know, he did a lot of work.
The Sinatra stuff, some of the Sinatra stuff.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You know what I mean? And it's a whole different genre for the most part, you know? Honestly, Epic didn't even want Quincy to produce for Michael because they said he was a jazz producer. So he had to change up his palette and some of the things that he was doing to even work with Michael. And this is shit off the wall. He had to be in his late 40s if he wasn't already 50. So JY with the super chat says, I never thought I'd see the days as a senior in high school and witnessing Nas drop arguably a top 3 album from him. KD3 is going to stay with me for life. Love these moments, man. I guess everybody's on the same page with KD3 being album of the year.
Yeah.
Solution says, Mike, do you know you have a very good radio voice? I appreciate that. I've heard that before. I tried my thing in radio, but
I agree with that.
It was too political. Appreciate the love. Seek Big says the majority of hip hop listeners accept Kendrick's below par, mediocre, low energy, and pop/alternative music. You can't play his songs by themselves. Okay, I think that the reason why people accept Kendrick's voice is because, man, we're going to go all the way back with this. I'm going back to Graduation. Kanye West. I think Kanye West is one of the people that not only made it okay for you to be a rapper to come in the game without any edge, made it okay for you to use your government name for the most part, first name, last name, and he also made it okay to not have a great rap voice and be the biggest in the game. At least, I don't want to say great rap voice, a strong rap voice.
See, but I felt like Jay was that too, though. That's why I mean, it's like how Jay before it's Jay.
To a degree, but I think even if we want to talk about the strength of voice, can you see Kanye West making You Don't Know? Because you can't see Kanye West making public service announcement. Like,
hell no.
We're judging Jay's voice based on his contemporaries, but he has a much stronger voice than the current batch of MCs. You can even hear on Diamonds. You can hear on Diamonds and Never Let Me Down the difference between them two.
No, you're right.
Michael Holmes with the super chat says 1996 Nas is the GOAT. I totally agree with that. I mean, overall Nas is the GOAT, but yeah, I've said on the show before, Nas in 1996 is probably the greatest MC I've ever heard rap. Michael Holmes also says Boosie gave Nas respect on his third Vlad interview. I'm gonna be real, man. I don't watch Vlad's stuff, but I'll take your word for it. But yes, are we ready to rate Dave East? Are you ready to get to?
No, we can rate the Dave and then move on. One thing that I really thought about too, and this was in relationship to the voice when I thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
where you're gonna have to stop holding fort by yourself so much too. And so this album maybe because of his voice was missing some more features, maybe to kind of offset some of that.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't become noticeable because it was something that I found. I found myself asking that question around tracks like 11, 12, 13. And I feel like maybe if there would have been some breakage with guest appearances in between, I maybe wouldn't have felt that way and be having these sentiments. But that's what moments are like these are for, to like really like unpack it in detail and get to like really what it is. And so like he doesn't have the best rap voice and he's not an A1 lyricist, but he's an excellent production and beat picker. It's a great song maker. And he really just probably needs to just stitch up some ends together. But I really like this project. I enjoyed listening to it.
Was it better than Joey's project?
I enjoyed the production. So, like Shimor, if we're being honest,
Yeah.
I did. I would probably go ride to this before I would ride to the Joey. I need to go listen to the Joey again, but just off just a couple of hard listens, I would tell you they're about on the same level for me. But when I was thinking about this, I was like, yeah, there's like this somewhere between like a 3.9, 4.1. I feel like we gave the Joey like a 4.1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is like kind of in that stratosphere. If it's below it, it's not too far off of it.
Shout out to the people in the chat that are talking about Sinatra at the Sands, 1966. That was produced by Quincy Jones.